No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. I brought my own. Well, the first question I want to ask you, because, conventions, basically, they're celebrations of geekdom. I'm a geek. I think a lot of us are geeks out there. Do you geek out about anything? Are you a geek? Are you a fan of anything? Are you passionate about any particular thing?
I'm so on the inside of geekdom that it's just like normal stuff to me. I gave birth to a geek too. My son Django, all of it, into all of it. So yeah, it's just kind of a way of life.
Right.
Yeah, but there's nothing that I get crazy about.
Okay. But even like huge garden geek, so people who are like gardening geeks or music geek. What's your food? Foodie. That's the correct term.
Yeah, I am that. I had a catering business when I lived in New Mexico, and I love to bake. I love to cook. I love to feed people most of all. That's what I really like. I like to feed people.
So I'll accept the invitation. Let's just go right to the floor because I'm sure you all have lots of questions you want answered. Right there, isn't it?
Hello there.
Hi.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
You probably drank it the most on the show, and as an actress, I imagine you brought a lot of the creativity and imagination into your character. But as an actress, what do you imagine a Rappuccino tasting like?
I did think about that. I absolutely thought about that. And it was very much like a mocha.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it was often a mocha that I was.
More from the floor? Anybody? Because I got questions galore. We can go to here we go. You're also in Battlestar Galactica. Do you think BSG had a bigger impact on the current state of sci-fi on TV than Star Trek did overall? Tough question.
Gee whiz. No, personally I don't. I think Star Trek did. I see Deep Space Nine looking sets in so many movies. I think it really influenced a whole style.
Obviously, it had that darker tone DS9 did, but what else separated it from the other Star Trek series that read it?
Well, we didn't go anywhere. Which was a problem for a lot of people. But it was about all the different species being forced together and everything not being perfect. Groups of people who weren't under the time directive and how you work that out.
Obviously, there's lots of remakes. We just saw the Hollywood feature film based on the original Star Trek. The sequel coming out sometime soon. Do you think, and there's rumors that this may happen, that Seth MacFarlane, who you've worked with on Family Guy, might be the right guy to reboot Star Trek for TV?
Wow, I had not heard that. But I have to tell you, Seth is one of the most frighteningly talented people I have ever seen. I had no idea when I watched Family Guy and I enjoyed it, but going in to work with him, I was shocked. He was Stewie, he was the dad, he was the dog, he was all the voices, and he performed it with me and would go from one voice to the next. It was like he had 3 people in his body around the scene. I've never seen anything like it. And he's quick and smart, and I think he'd do a good job.
He is a very passionate Star Trek fan.
Yeah, he's a big geek about it. Yeah, absolutely. I was so impressed to meet him. He was like, Major Kira, wow.
Any questions from the floor? Feel free to throw your vote. We got one right there. White, yeah.
For me?
Yeah.
Hello. I was wondering, between the two, in the Deep Space Nine series, did you like the Vedic Berial Kira relationship better or the Odo Kira relationship better?
Vedic Berial or Odo? Well, Odo was more versatile. Definitely Odo. And to work with Renee, he is the consummate professional, and it's like playing tennis when you're a good tennis player with someone who's way better than you. And it just, I felt like he brought my game up always when we worked together.
There.
My question is sort of along the same lines. They put Kira through 3 different relationships in that series, with Berial, with Jakar, and with Odo. And I noticed they didn't really do that with any of the other characters. So did you feel it all sort of thrown around between those?
I figured that I kissed just about every character on the show. Between me and the intendant, I did, including Dax. I'm not sure, you should have seen, it was so funny. The day that, and of course now it's so common, but 2 women kissing, all of a sudden we tried to get to our set, and it was crowded with men. Men from other shows. It was unbelievable. It was really funny, but like I said, it was a big deal then. But yeah, I don't know why I was romantically all over the place. I don't know what inspired them.
Well, your pregnancy was actually incorporated into the plot of the show, and this is actually something that often happens in sci-fi, whereas you hear stories about outside of sci-fi, actresses getting pregnant and their characters being written off or excuses being given. Is sci-fi as a genre more accepting of that sort of thing? Does it offer more opportunity to play around when that sort of scenario arises?
It's certainly easier to do something about it and accept it than hold pillows and constantly be bringing trays somewhere. The way they usually handle it, you know, you just flat out, there was a shuttlecraft accident and now I'm pregnant.
Or from the floor to the side of the room so they don't ignore you right there. Yeah.
I was just wondering, when Starfleet also had that deep, dirty problem, you know, there was something deep and evil within Starfleet. I noticed it came out with Deep Space Nine. How did it feel that Deep Space Nine opened up the fact that Starfleet was having problems? And 2, when are you going to show up on Big Bang Theory?
I know. I'd like to. That would be really fun. That would be really fun. I'd love to work on that. And I think Deep Space Nine was the show to explore all that stuff. I mean, it was the right environment because that's what we were all about. Problems, and are they going to get solved? And very often they didn't. There was a lot of gray area. Things were just left as they are in life, you know, not tied up in a bow.
Yeah.
I was wondering, does the DS9 past present the fact that TNG got a whole bunch of movies and none of the other series got any movies?
You know, there were certain things that we were told. We were told we would go 7 years at the beginning. We were told that Paramount is weird about merchandising, so just forget it. And we were told that there wouldn't be any movies. So it was predetermined, so it was like, yeah, well, we know that. We kind of knew. So no, not at all. And TNG was such a phenomenon, you know, we were lucky to hang on there as the, you know, darker show.
More there classes, yeah.
Between the Vince Fontaine hologram version and the dark side mirror version, you played a lot of personalities as Kira Nerys. How was it like switching between those different versions of yourself?
It was, first of all, I had so much room in Major Kira because she made mistakes. She did, you know, I wasn't just playing a one-dimensional character or someone who has to fulfill, you know, the romantic ideal. I had so much room with her. And then I had so much room with the intendant, and it was fantastic to play that role. Unfortunately, at the time, I'm sure now it's so easy to do split screen stuff, but we weren't there technologically then. And to do one scene between Major Kira and the intendant, one like 3-minute scene took 12 hours. It was grueling, and everything had to be lined up in a certain way, and then you had to act. So, yeah.
Before we go to the next question, if you can't see and you're in the front rows there, it does look like there's more room at the back, so you have a bit more of a line of sight. I noticed there's people over there.
Yeah. Why? It's not fair.
Right down the middle, little red shirt. Spit it out before you have to get killed.
I have your keys. I can't find the credenza. Could you point me towards the Davenport?
My son Django makes fun of me. He says that I am like that, you know, because I say, would you like a peppermint? And he said, oh my God, that's your character in Family Guy. Peppermint? No one says peppermint.
Right there.
What was it like working against Louise Fletcher?
Louise Fletcher is one of the funniest, cutest women, and you'd never know it from that character, but she has the most girlish laugh, and when she would laugh, it's impossible not to laugh with her. She was a delight. I had so much fun. I had so much fun with her. And she's so nasty in her character. It's amazing.
And the middle gray shirt.
As I understand it, originally your character was written for Michelle Forbes. Did it add any extra pressure to you when the show started? And two, did you watch her performance before the show started?
No, I never watched her performance. Sometimes when you're doing a show like this, they'll send you a lot of CDs and have you watch. I certainly did that with Battlestar Galactica to get the feel of the show. But there was really no need. I came in and I felt I knew this character inside out, and from the moment I walked in the room for the audition, she was fully formed. So it didn't matter to me. It was mine at that point.
Right there.
What was your favorite of the Deep Space Nine sets?
You know, the promenade was, it's like, you know, Disneyland is 3/4, you know, size, and Disney World is full on, everything is the right size, the real size. That's the way the promenade was. Everything was so detailed. I remember, of course I was drunk out of my mind on exhaustion, you know, working 16, 17-hour days for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'd be sitting on the promenade at 2 in the morning looking at this starscape, and I could convince myself I was on a space station really easily. You could just live there.
Right here in front.
Oh, I was wondering if you have a preference for either stage or film acting.
If you didn't hear the question, do I have a preference for stage or film acting, and why? I have this visceral way of feeling about it that I'll just tell you what that is. When I'm backstage waiting to go on, I feel like I'm a panther in the savannah. I'm stalking around, and I know I'm going to get what I need to get. In a film, I feel like I'm in a really nice zoo. You know, it's all, everything is great, you know, but it's a zoo, and I know it.
Zoos are safer.
Zoos are safer and, you know, and more lucrative.
Right there.
Hi, what was it like working with Mark Alamo, Gold Ducat?
Mark, the minute he would put his makeup on, he became that character, and I was already a Bajoran, and it was like I just couldn't stand him. Everything he did annoyed me. Every suggestion he made, I didn't want to do. You know, he'd say, let's do it in front of the stars. It'll be kind of romantic. I was like, no. But when we had dinner and stuff outside, he came to Easter, I remember one year. He was delightful and sweet and charming, and he had a wolf that made me, that really impressed me. I went out to his house to meet his wolf. It was a full-on wolf.
Wow.
Wow. Right down the middle.
Can you tell us about some of the current projects that you're involved with? And I know you still work with Renee on occasion. What was the most recent thing you had done with him, possibly, in a con or whatever?
We started to do these poetry readings. It sounds hideous, but it was actually really, really wonderful. We found some great works, and that was just, always with Renee, it's joyful, and that was terrific. I just moved from LA, literally just, LA to New York. My husband got a job working on Broadway. He's a manager, and so we made the decision, well, you know, you follow your cheese. So we followed his cheese this time. It was his turn because he went and sat in LA with me, certainly not being able to work on Broadway. So it's his turn this time, and there are a lot of shows happening in New York right now. So hopefully I'll do some guest stars. I'd really like that.
On the topic of Renee, I'm actually going to be at a con with him in a couple of months in Halifax. So could you give us a funny story about working with him that I could then ask him then? See the two line up.
No, you know, you have to ask the next generation people for, you know, inside stuff because they had so much going on. They were so funny, and they played tricks on each other. And Deep Space Nine, we were, especially Renee and I, we were so sober and so about work and scene and stuff. Right. There wasn't a lot of lighthearted stuff.
That's what I heard from Michael Dorn and speaking with him. That the transition from TNG to DS9 was a bit more of a serious tone on set.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But you can ask him about our kiss and rubber meeting rubber.
We'll do back to the...
Oh, yeah.
Pointing question.
Absolutely. In case you didn't hear, it speaks to today how we had all these different species crammed together trying to get along with different beliefs and different everything. Yeah, it definitely speaks to today. It definitely does.
Is that the power of sci-fi, the fact that it is such a metaphor for a real issue?
It's an amazing mirror, and it's one that we feel safe looking in and being able to see truthful things about ourselves, and it's hugely important. I mean, myths and mythology, the stories we tell ourselves to advance ourselves are so important, and science fiction is one of the only places I see it really, really still being developed.
On the floor, Russell?
Now, when it comes to the sets, how much of the sets were like built and how much was green screen? Were there times where you're going, how much do I have to imagine is there?
No, the things that you'd have to imagine are the creature jumping at you, you know, or Odo and I, the first time we were together, I had to imagine that because he turned into rain or something. Those were the challenging thing. Everything on set was real. I mean, all the everything, it was all real. It felt real.
Now it seems like, everything is CG, so do you think that that's doing a disservice to actors, or can you step up and still, deliver the same performance?
It's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different. And you can deliver the same performance, but you're going to go through different things to get it. Maybe a few more steps.
Sure.
I was just curious about your experience on Torchwood, and because it is a British TV show that became an American show, was there a difference between the two, and how was it working with John Barrowman and that cast compared to DS9?
Oh my God. John is out of his mind. He is out of his mind. All I did was laugh on that set. And he's a real gentleman. I'll tell you a quick story. It's a tradition when you're on a show when you finished your work, you completed the work on the show, the AD says, and that's a good night and goodbye to the now visitor. And it's just like, it gives people a chance to say goodbye and whatever they wanted to say to you, and it's just done. Well, this AD didn't do it. And so it was like, no big deal. So I'm going to my trailer to change into my real clothes, and John comes flapping in that coat. He's like, oh, no, you don't. And I said, don't, please, it doesn't matter. And he grabbed me and he said, you're coming back to set, and he's going to say it. And he dragged me back. It was, they were much looser than Deep Space Nine. There's no seriousness there. No, none at all, and they were delightful, all of them.
Way in back. Oh, it's like Recor.
Hey. I'm wondering if you had a chance to go back to play Major Kira or Colonel Kira, is there any aspects of the character that you feel hadn't been explored in the show that you'd like to, maybe advance a bit further?
The only thing that I can think of is I always thought that when the intendant came over the last time, that she tied Major Kira up and she impersonated Major Kira, and that Major Kira was the main problem for all the stuff going on with the wars, because it was actually the intendant trying to take everything down. So that would kind of be fun to go back as the intendant and see. I know that doesn't follow the books, I know, but that idea always fascinated me.
What do you think?
A friend of mine are trying to teach a Star Trek and leadership course at the UNB.
Cool.
And so we were just wondering if you could comment on Major Kira's leadership style and how being an outsider in Starfleet and that command structure kind of influenced your performance.
I'd say that her style was jump in and expect everyone to follow suit. Certainly someone who wouldn't just make an order, but would lead right into battle. So I'd say that's her style. And what was the other question? Coming from Major and being like in the Starfleet command structure, how did that? Oh, it certainly affected my character. Over 7 years, I became like a different person. I had so much anger and so little patience for what the Federation did. And by the end of it, I saw the good and was behind it.
I had a question about your story arc of faith. Major Kira is one of the few characters that really explored faith, or if they did that, how did that feel to have that kind of growth, that arc? You were talking about how that process changed. How did that feel to play that, to explore that?
It was incredible to have that arc of faith, in case you didn't hear that they explored my faith. I think they would have gone further with it, but they got not great feedback about it from I don't think fans wanted to see all that so much. But they really did get it, they went deep into it. But it was, she was so much a person. She was every archetype you could play. She had active in her.
Speaking of Kira's faith, and they did explore it quite a bit, but how much further did you maybe take it in thinking about internalizing her faith and all the stuff behind what actually made it to the screen?
Well, you know, I was called a freedom fighter by some on the show and a terrorist, excuse me, by others. So it was where she came from, her faith and the importance of her faith. It was why she did what she did. And I always wonder if in today's world she would exist as a lead character. I don't know.
Way in the back, right on.
So you have a lot of good things to say about a lot of actors that you've worked with. I'm wondering who was the most challenging or who was the most difficult or... If you feel uncomfortable answering that, then it's just a good story.
No, I'll tell you what you probably already know. Avery Brooks he's a very different kind of being. And amazing. As a matter of fact, he asked me the first day on set, how do you like your name pronounced? And I was like, what? I'm used to saying Nana, Nan, whatever. And it was like, I don't know. And he said, no, how do you like your name? And I said, I like the way my mother said it. She was French, and she would say Nana. And by the end of the week, everyone on the set was calling me Nana. And that's how it stuck with me. And I actually say that's the way I like my name said. But I wouldn't have thought to, encourage people to say it that way. He knew everyone's name. He was such a cool, wonderful gentleman. And he is also a jazz musician. And, excuse me, and talks like one. And I was his interpreter for a couple of years. A new director would come in and he'd say, Avery, did you want to change something in that scene? And Avery literally would go, that, like that. There. I'm not kidding. And the director would look at me like, please, because they didn't want to admit that they had no idea what he was talking about. And I'd say, oh, he just thinks that the first part of the scene should maybe happen down here, and that we should go slower with that whole section. And it's okay. All right, yeah, Avery, yeah. But if you spend enough time with him, you completely got what he was talking about. His shorthand made absolute sense. It made absolute sense to me. But to the uninitiated, it was a little frightening.
Did you know much about Star Trek before?
Did I know much about Star Trek? I love your hair. I love that. When I was a young dancer on Broadway, I would watch the original Star Trek, the reruns, every single night. It played on Channel 11 at 6 o'clock. I'd eat dinner and watch Star Trek and then go to work and do my thing. But it was part of my routine for forever. So that's what I knew about it.
What do you think it is about the franchise that continues to propel it forward, that it brings in new fans all the time? The crowd of people here, there's probably a few who are too young to watch DS9 when it's originally on. on air, but they're here now to see you. What is it that's so magical about the franchise?
Mythology. I really believe it's very much mythology and a way for us to look at issues in a new light, in a light that doesn't scare us.
I know you were saying that you wanted to dance on Broadway, but how much of that was influenced by the late Sid Charisse?
Ah, my aunt. Sid, when she was 17, met my very dashing uncle, who was a ballet teacher, and he taught her gorgeous arms and then married her. And Sid was one of the most beautiful dancers. But my uncle, my mother, was one of 11 children, and my grandmother, Calliope Charisse, did a vaudeville show with her 11 children. So they were all dancers. From the time my mother was 2 years old, she was on stage dancing. So the Charisse name goes back a ways in terms of dancers.
Actually, as a follow-up to the gentleman's question, when you knew Star Trek growing up as a child and came into Deep Space Nine being such a departure from the usual, what did you think of it when you actually got into it?
When I actually got into
Deep Space Nine,
Space
departure
Nine,
from the usual formula.
I would have gotten a tattoo of the station on my head. I was a diehard. I loved the show, and I respected the show, and I knew every day when it was 2 or 4 in the morning, and I was like, oh my God, Buster, my son, who was 2 at the he was newborn at the time. I'd say he's going to be getting up and I'm going to be up with him. I'd still go, I am so lucky to be doing this material, to be able to do something that I feel is important. I'll never forget that. So it was a big deal to me.
From that side of the room, right there.
How much of Kira's character did you invent yourself versus what was written before you? Did you come up with anything and improv and everything? What was into the character?
They tell you, they say X, Y, and Z needs to be incorporated. But that's kind of like, a cake. Okay, so we've got eggs, butter, and milk. But what I can do, adding other ingredients, it can be a cake you never thought of. So certainly I brought my feelings and my unreasonable passion for things to Kira.
What was it like wrapping up 7th season and parting ways with Star Trek?
Parting ways with Star Trek. I cried for the last 2 weeks. I told you I was a die-hard fan of the show, and I cried for 2 weeks. It was so hard to let go. It was so hard to say goodbye. It's, it's not family, it's a tribe, and you leave your tribe, and you don't have one anymore, and it's very hard, very hard.
Sort of events like this where you're talking about and engaged with the fans, are they joyous or does it have a little bit of pain, those memories of saying goodbye?
I don't associate it with the tribe. I associate it with this experience, which is constantly different and amazing to me and important to me. Because, again, what attracted all of us to it, I respect. So I'm cool with this part of it.
Right there.
Did you have a sense, like from when you started the show, that it would last so long? Did you know, like right when you started, that 15 years later you'd be coming to conventions and talking about it still?
They told us that. They told us, but I come from Broadway, and all of a sudden the notice goes up, and you got 2 weeks, and then the job's over. So I, through the whole time until probably the 6th season, I kept thinking, yeah, but it may not happen. may not happen. And this whole part of it, I didn't believe at all, not at all. This is an amazing experience. It's an amazing part of it.
More from the floor on that side?
Some,
Yeah.
Hi, I've actually seen some of the videos you did for YouTube with your sister cooking.
No.
Would you ever consider doing a cooking show?
Oh, yeah, I think we'd love to. It's so kind of, you know, you try to keep your family secrets and the way, your bizarreness out of the public eye. And Zan and I just put it out there. That's really the way we are together. And it's kind of out of control. And if you're in the same room with us, maybe a little scary. But we'd love to do that. We would absolutely love to do that. Now that I'm back in Manhattan, we're going to do more. We just weren't on the same coast. But thanks for asking about that. I'm glad you watch it.
Well, if you were to have a dinner party and cook a dinner, invite a few friends, or let's say 6, if you can think of that many people that you've worked with, who would you want to invite to that dinner party?
Oh my goodness. I would want to invite Andy Griffith and Angela Lansbury, Renee, Siddig, oh my goodness, all the people. Hasselhoff, because that would, I'd put it next to Andy Griffith. That would it's endless who I'd invite.
Good answer, anyway. That's right.
I was wondering, could you tell us about your experiences singing Fever on the holodeck, and could you sing a few bars for us?
Oh my goodness. It was fantastic. They wanted me to sing They Can't Take That Away From Me, which I thought Odo and Kira, it was a perfect choice in a way because they came from friendship and they were such good friends. But I wanted there to be some heat to the relationship too. And I thought Fever was like the perfect thing to do it.
Hi. What kind of movies and music do you love?
Oh, never know how much. What do I like?
Yeah.
I love The Good Wife. I watch that. I watch Bunhead because it's really different and interesting, and I'm sure the network will ruin it very quickly. Yeah, because they have the dialogue, they're actually talking, and that won't last. I can't imagine that it would. What else do I watch? Family Guy reruns. I watch a lot of old reruns too. Like everybody else, Law and Order, all of them. Now I go, okay, I've seen that one twice. I just can't watch it.
I believe you asked about movies and music as well.
Yeah, music.
Music, right now, my favorite thing to listen to is Vampire Weekend. I love them. I see ya, da, da, da. You remember, do you know that? Oh, yeah, it's wonderful. They're a very innovative group. Django always brings me this music, my 15-year-old, and introduces me to new stuff, probably so that I don't mind listening to it. But it totally works. And I love Coco Rosie. I love jazz, some of the later jazz. Yeah.
Is that a question or a 5-minute warning? Question, go ahead.
You mentioned that the show is like a tribe. I was wondering if you're still really close to all the cast and if you have barbecues together.
There DS9 hangouts?
Well, very often these are our opportunities to see each other, and it happens then. but it's like, you know that video of the lions seeing each other after all those years, and they just hug each other. That's the way we are. We may not see each other all the time. We don't go to barbecues because we live all over the place and rarely are in the same, city. But when we do get together, it's like there was no time gone. You have friends like that. That's what it's like.
I recently moderated a reunion of the TNG cast in Calgary this year, and without naming names, someone behind the scenes said you got to make sure that so and so doesn't dominate the conversation. Who from the cast of DS9 would be the most flamboyant and verbose if there were to be such a reunion?
Oh my God! Oh, it might be me. That's why I couldn't think of anybody.
Right there, right back.
Could you tell me, do you have any dogs or cats at home?
Yes, I have 2 dogs, a standard black and white poodle and a toy black and white poodle. Did you know they came in 2 colors? And they're gorgeous, and they're such smart dogs. And I also have a Kaik parrot who laughs exactly like me and seems to know when someone said a joke or something funny. He just, oh! He even does a little scream, ah! But yeah, he's a wonderful parrot. He's my parrot.
I was just wondering why they killed off Dax, like very last second season.
That was the actress's choice. She wanted to finish.
Why didn't they just kill off the character and instead of replace it?
I don't know why they decided to do that. I have no idea, none whatsoever. It's just one of those things I wasn't privy to.
Were there any actors that would fight the writers on decisions, go in and demand changes frequently?
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
That was me.
Right.
Well, with the next generation and their 25th anniversary, is there something or talk amongst the cast of doing something similar when it comes time for Deep Space Nine?
Not that I know of, no. We have
Who would
nothing
initiate
planned.
that?
I have no idea. I'll probably be the last to know too, if there is anything.
It's usually the corporations, right? Like Paramount or something that has something to do with
Yeah,
that.
we think so.
There's one over there.
I was wondering, what do you dress up like Colleen?
I'm usually a witch. I like to be a witch, but kind of this scary witch as opposed to one in a short skirt.
If you ever had to cosplay at a convention, come in a costume from some pop culture thing, is there a character that you would like to appear as?
Yeah, I think I'd come as one of those My Little Ponies.
When it came to the end of the 6th season and the 7th season, what was your personal opinion of the introduction of Vic Fontaine?
What did I think of bringing Vic Fontaine into it? I loved it. And every time we were on that set, it was fun and wonderful, and he's just a dream. It was great. I also loved when they did the 007 takeoff, but because of Bond and all of that, we weren't allowed to do any more, because I think they intended to do quite a few of those, which would have been great.
Time for a couple more, so okay.
Did you take anything after the show finished?
Did you borrow anything from set?
I did before I knew it was bad. I asked the prop guys, because I sat in the promenade, I told you, all those hours. And there was I took a large piece from the promenade, there was this, it looked like a spiny fish that hung in front of, I guess what was supposed to be a fish restaurant. And I asked the prop guys, can I have that? Because, you know, and they were pulling it all apart and stuff. And that night, they pulled up to they had it covered in their wagon, and they said, okay, where's your car? We'll put it right there. Wait, is this bad? And the next day, we got it from the producers, do not take anything. But I already had it.
Particularly now that you're in New York, are you interested in pursuing any more theater work, and what are some of your stage dream roles?
I'm so lucky I got to do a stage dream role. I got to do Roxy Hart in Chicago. That was just fantastic. I loved that. I would love to do Mama Rose and Gypsy. Probably in a few years. I need to wait a little while. But everyone wants to do Mama Rose and Gypsy, so I have a long line ahead of me. I would like to originate something else. That would be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing Broadway.
Well, we'd all be looking forward to having you back at Expo. Give it up for Nanda. Would you like some water?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. I brought my own. Well, the first question I want to ask you, because, you know, conventions, basically, they're celebrations of geekdom. I'm a geek. I think a lot of us are geeks out there. Do you geek out about anything? Are you a geek? Are you a fan of anything? Are you passionate about any particular thing?
You know, I'm so on the inside of geekdom that it's just like normal stuff to me. I gave birth to a geek too, my son Django, all of it, into all of it. So yeah, it's just kind of a way of life.
Right.
Yeah, but there's nothing that I get crazy about.
Okay. But even like the garden geek, so people, do you think VSG had a bigger impact on the current state of sci-fi on TV than Star Trek did overall? Tough question.
Gee whiz. No, personally I don't. I think Star Trek did.
Okay,
I see Deep Space Nine looking sets in so many movies. I think it really influenced a whole style.
Obviously, it had that darker tone DS9 did, but what else separated it from the other Star Trek series that were out there?
Well, we didn't go anywhere. Which was a problem for a lot of people. But it was about all the different species being forced together and everything not being perfect. Groups of people who weren't under the time directive and how you work that out.
Obviously, there's lots of remakes. We just saw the Hollywood feature film based on the original Star Trek. The sequel coming out sometime soon. Do you think
The two, in the Deep Space Nine series, did you like the Vedic Berial Kira relationship better or the Odo Kira relationship better?
Vedic Berial or Odo? Well, Odo was more versatile. Definitely Odo. And to work with Renee, he is the consummate professional, and it's like playing tennis when you're a good tennis player with someone who's way better than you. And it just, I felt like he brought my game up always when we worked together.
There.
My question is sort of along the same lines. They put Kira through 3 different relationships in that series, with Berial, with Jakar, and with Odo. And I noticed they didn't really do that with any of the other characters. So did you feel it all sort of thrown around between those?
I figured that I kissed just about every...
And there's rumors that this may happen, that Seth MacFarlane, who we worked with on Family Guy, might be the right guy to reboot Star Trek for TV.
Wow, I had not heard that. But I have to tell you, Seth is one of the most frighteningly talented people I have ever seen. I had no idea when I watched Family Guy and I enjoyed it. But going in to work with him, I was shocked. He was Stewie, he was the dad, he was the dog, he was all the voices, and he performed it with me and would go from one voice to the next. It was like he had 3 people in his body as he ran the scene. I've never seen anything like it. And he's quick and smart, and I think he'd do a good job.
He is a very passionate Star Trek fan.
Yeah, he's a big geek about it. Yeah, absolutely. I was so impressed to meet him. He was like, Major Kira, wow.
Any questions from the floor? Feel free to throw your vote. We got one right there. White, yeah. Yeah.
Hello. I was wondering, between...
Or like gardening geeks or
You know,
music
okay.
geek. What's your food? A foodie, that's the correct term.
Yeah, I am that. I had a catering business when I lived in New Mexico, and I love to bake, I love to cook. I love to feed people most of all. That's what I really like. I like to feed people.
So I'll accept the invitation. Let's just go right to the floor, because I'm sure you all have lots of questions you want answered. Right there.
Hello there.
Hi.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
You probably drank it the most on the show, and as an actress, I imagine you brought a lot of the creativity and imagination into your character. But as an actress, what do you imagine a Rappuccino tasting like?
I did think about that. I absolutely thought about that. And it was very much like a mocha.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it was often a mocha that I was.
More from the floor? Anybody? Because I got questions galore. Here we go. You're also in Battlestar Galactica.